Hi everybody, Matt Travis. I am a coach, a mentor. I run a online program called The Potential You, and it's all about empowering parents and athletes and kids to just live a better life and really get back to their nutritional roots. And today we're going to be going through the grocery store and we're going to be giving you all of the tips and tricks to kind of navigate this area, because it can be very, very difficult and it can be frustrating. And I want to empower you and make sure that you don't feel that way when you're in here. So let's get started and have some fun. So today we have Sam and Larry coming through the grocery store with us, and we have a lot to get through. Do you guys have any questions?
How long is this going to take?
That's a great question. So I like to keep it to an hour in the grocery store. Anything more than an hour is just we don't have enough time in our lives, bottom line. And I really like to get people in and out and get them into the best choices possible. Question?
Where do we start?
I love starting in the produce section. The produce section tends to be the best place to start because that's where we're going to get all of our vitamins and nutrients from. All right, guys, so I like to give people just a basic one sheet of paper to really kind of help make good choices and decisions as they go through the grocery store. So there's really 3 questions that I like people to think about as they're traveling through the grocery store, and then really just 5 main tips. So the first one is, will this food decrease or increase chronic inflammation in my body? Now, a lot of people are like, I have no clue. And that's completely understandable. So that's really what we're going to be going through today, is what are all of these different foods doing to us? Are they helping us or are they hurting us? Second thing is, are you feeding emotional hunger or nutritional hunger? And that can be a very tricky one as well, because a lot of times when we're making decisions, they may be made off of just this mindset, emotional piece. And I want to start empowering people to get the correct food that's really going to help their body nutritionally. And last but not least, if you have a set amount of resources, which hunger should you prioritize? And when I say resources, a lot of times one of the biggest things when people come to the grocery store with me is they say, I have a set budget about how much money I can spend at the store. So I figure if we can give you the biggest bang for your buck and give you the most nutritional food possible, that's going to be the biggest thing. Now, if we have anything left over, then you can, of course, make any decision you like, right? So the 5 main tips that I give people is buy and eat mostly whole, 1-ingredient foods. Those tend to be the most anti-inflammatory. Now, it all depends, and we'll go through everything. And foods with no more than 5 ingredients. So that's just kind of like a rule of thumb. That's a pretty good one to think about, is whenever you're looking at any prepackaged food, if it has 5 ingredients or more, we just kind of want to limit things like that, because 9 times out of 10 they tend to not be the best foods for us. Eat foods that are vitamin and nutrient dense. That's why we start in the produce section, because that's where we're going to get most of our vitamins and nutrients, right? And then buy/drink more water. I know everyone's like, duh, but it makes sense, right? Eat mostly food with no added sugar. Now that's a tricky one. That's a very tricky one. And we're going to go through all this, and we're going to pick up packages, and we're going to see, because there's 62 different names of sugar, which can really challenge you because you don't know what each name is. So what I do with a lot of my members, I just give them a list, and then I have them go through the grocery store, and it's a very different experience. Last but not least, buy and eat more foods that have healthy fats. I am a huge fan of healthy fats, so I'm going to kind of give you guys my favorite healthy fats that we can get in the grocery store today. All right?
I'm excited.
Cool. So when we look at this first section, we have a lot of great fruits and vegetables and produce to really start us off on this track. So right now we're in front of a lot of the root vegetables and squashes and things. So do you know what that is?
This is a
That's a tricky one. I will be floored if you know what that is, because I had no clue before I started learning about this stuff.
yucca?
Close. Close. Both really great guesses. So this is a rutabaga. Okay?
Rutabaga, I've heard of that.
And rutabagas are phenomenal. You can actually switch them out and make like rutabaga French fries, okay? And they're a phenomenal antimicrobial and antifungal vegetable. So it's a win-win, really. And they tend to be a lot less starch than like a potato. Okay?
So do you peel this?
Yes. So the reason they put the wax on is just to keep it so that it doesn't go bad. And then you want to peel all of that off. So you'll peel all of it off, and then you're just going to chop it up and cut it up like French fries. All right. And then we have butternut squash over here. Butternut squash is absolutely wonderful. We got to make sure it's not falling.
That's exactly.
But yeah, we pretty much have every kind of squash, which is awesome, you know. And then a lot of people, especially my athletes, Sam is an athlete. You think like spaghetti or pasta parties, right? So I find if you're gonna try to pack in the vitamins and nutrients before a big event, spaghetti squash is a way better option because you can cut it all up, and you could even do like a zucchini spiralizer or a summer squash spiralizer with that if you wanted different kinds of pasta, right? And it's just a great nutrient-dense option, okay? And then over here we have broccoli, carrots, some of our mainstays, right? Those ones are awesome. Brussels sprouts, which are absolutely huge. This is awesome. And these are just the main things that if we can fill up and build the base of our cart with these types of foods, we're going to be doing pretty well, you know, because that's going to be the main part of our food source. So another thing that I really like people to understand when they come into the grocery store is trying to eat a wide variety, quantity and quality of fruits and vegetables. And I want you to think of it as like a rainbow of colors. So the more colors you can have, right, the more nutrient dense and vitamins you're gonna find. So you're gonna get different vitamins from different fruits and vegetables. And I love that you can have any color of pepper, right? And then eggplant, of course, is a different color as well. And this is actually, a lot of people would think of it as a purple type of vegetable. On the inside, it's white, right? So when we start thinking of different colors, the more colors that we can get into our diet, the better. Questions?
So, is there a better way to cook the vegetable? Like if you grill it, is that better than stewing it, or does it matter?
I love that question. That's a phenomenal question. So, ideally, we'd like to eat a lot of our foods raw. Ideally, because we're not going to destroy any of the nutrients in it. Okay? Because anytime we heat vegetables or fruits, we're breaking it down a little bit. With that being said, not everybody likes vegetables that are cooked, right? So, you know, you can of course grill them, steam them, cook them in the oven, roast them. So there's, I'm a big fan of the pressure cooker, so you can use them in an Instant Pot. So there's so many different ways to do that. And I say this, if you're gonna eat it, like if it's gonna get you to eat it, that's the best way to take it in, right? Okay. And then, you know, if you're not gonna eat it, it's not gonna work. Cool. Yeah. This is one of my favorite sections right here because it has some of my favorite foods. So first off, we have onions, and a lot of, you know, you're hearing a lot more about prebiotic and probiotic foods out there, and a lot of people are like, I kind of know what probiotics are, but prebiotics, really some of the best prebiotics on the planet are garlic and onions. So, you know, if you're a big garlic and onion fan, that's a plus, right? Tomatoes are wonderful as well. And coming back to your question about when it comes to cooking your fruits and vegetables, tomatoes actually have more lycopene if you are cooking them. So it actually increases the vitamins, which is a very interesting thing about tomatoes. But, you know, if you like tomato sauce, it's a plus, right? Now, another one that is hands down, like, pretty much my favorite fruit. Avocados. Do you guys like avocados?
Love avocados.
Awesome. Literally, you could probably eat an avocado a day and you'd be totally fine. A lot of people get very afraid of avocados because they're like, what do you think their big issue is? A lot of fat, right? So they're worried about the fat content. This is the good fats that I'm talking about.
Okay.
So when we're getting these in, you really don't have to worry about the fat content.
So how many of those? Like if you had 3 of them, is that going a little overboard?
It depends on the balance and ratio. That's a great question. It depends on the balance and ratio of what you're taking in with that. But if you tend to be eating a higher fat diet and a lower carbohydrate diet, you're gonna want to get more of them. So if you ate 3, like 3 of them, it would be okay. It's when you start kind of mixing all of that together, and really we want to be cycling in carbohydrates and eating in a more seasonal way if possible. So now, guys, I want to talk about organic versus non-organic because that's a pretty heated topic. Okay, so what I really like to think when I'm talking about this is, you know what? I would much rather you get in fruits and vegetables that aren't organic than not eat fruits and vegetables at all. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, can organic vegetables and fruits be a better option? Sure, definitely. And it does depend on the particular kind and the ones that we're looking at. So another really, this is a complete side thing. I find that leafy greens in boxes last longer. So I find it just lasts longer than in the bag, regardless of whether it's organic or not. So that's just another side tip there. But really, we just want to also, coming back to the quantity and quality of it, just getting more. Okay, getting more leafy greens, getting more different colors, right? So in the spring mix, you're going to have a bunch of different colors. And ultimately, we want the main color in everything we eat to be green. That's got to be like our main, bottom of the pyramid piece. And then we can build all the other colors off of that. Okay?
Do you want to go to a spring mix or to like a spinach salad versus an iceberg salad?
That's a great question. So I would recommend mixing it up.
Okay.
So when we go to the grocery store, we'll get a box of each. And it just allows you to change, coming back to the seasonal eating piece where you're not, spinach isn't necessarily always going to be in season.
Yeah.
So if we can rotate our vegetables and fruits, it's actually going to be better for us.
Balance it out.
It's hard though because I know a lot of my members are very habit oriented and they like what they like, so that they're used to eating certain foods.
Right.
So a lot of it is just giving people experience and opportunity to have some of these fruits and vegetables. It can take up to 21 tastes and 21 times to actually get a good taste and feel for that food so that you're going to actually want to eat it. So now we're at the prepared section, and really it's just, you have to think it's sacrificing time versus convenience, right? So when you're getting prepared food, you're going to be getting it conveniently prepared for you, and the price will probably go up. So if cost is the biggest issue, then I would recommend just buying it yourself and preparing yourself. However, if cost isn't an issue, then by all means, it's a great way to get in your fruits and vegetables that you may not prepare on your own, right? That you don't want to do.
Does the nutrients decrease when you buy prepared foods?
That's a great question. So, do the nutrients decrease? I guess it depends on how long it's been sitting out, right, after it's cut. I wouldn't say that it's that big of a deal. It's not a deal breaker, definitely. And this is a great example of multiple colors. I love all of the beet noodles, and this comes back to, we were talking about noodles before, sweet potato noodles, beet noodles,
Is it like pasta noodles?
zucchini noodles. Yeah, so you could eat this just like a pasta. So if you really don't need pasta, so this is actually a way more vitamin and mineral and nutrient dense food than buying just regular pasta. Woo! Brussels sprouts. So this is the frozen section. Okay, so the nice part about frozen fruits and vegetables is you're not really losing any of the nutrient contents. Sometimes you're actually going to have an improved nutrient content because when they pick it right away, then they flash freeze it, you're going to get the same amount. And I find they tend to be a little bit more cost effective for some particular fruits and vegetables. And I know from a fruit perspective, you can throw those fruits in a smoothie, right? And then, of course, hopefully some vegetables as well. And I like this because a lot of times we have things that go bad in our refrigerator, right? So when you have it frozen, it's not necessarily going to go bad. So you just thaw it, cook it up, and eat it. When it comes to oils in general, you just want to be aware of it. All right, guys. So now we're at the meat section, and some people eat meat, some people don't. It's a great source of different vitamins and minerals and definitely protein, right? Everyone's like, I gotta have my protein. So it also depends on the kind of meat that you get, of the fat content. 100%, you gotta be aware of that. And it's not necessarily bad in particular diets to eat a higher fatty type of meat. But when we're thinking about meat, there's of course many different levels. You know, you have grass-fed versus grain-fed. You have pasture-raised when it comes to chickens, right? And organic and all those things. Really, you just have to start thinking when it comes specifically to meat is whatever the animal ate is what you're going to be taking in as well. And you're definitely going to get a higher content of nutrients and vitamins from a cow that ate grass, right, versus grain. And we also have to be aware that you might not be able to have that. It might not be available in your grocery store, or it might not be cost effective for you. So you really just have to figure out where it works for you and what you're able to find at your own local store. So we are at the seafood section. And, you know, some people like seafood, some people don't. You guys like seafood?
We love seafoods. Yeah,
Awesome.
seafood's great.
Awesome. So when we're thinking about seafood, there's, of course, so many different kinds. And it's hard to know, you know, what's the healthy kind, what's the not healthy kind. Now, we think of it as, you know, some of the seafood is farm caught, some of it is wild caught. Ideally, we'd like to move towards the wild caught. So here's a great example of the wild caught salmon. Salmon is definitely one of the best ones out there because of its high omega-3 content. So it has a lot of EPA and DHA, where that's going to be different than, say, you get like chia seeds or hemp seeds, which are going to be more of an ALA omega-3. So when you hear the buzzword omega-3s, that's all they're talking about. Okay, so this is going to be the best form of that fatty acid you can get. Now, do you guys like salmon?
We do.
Awesome. So this is a great option for pretty much any meal. Now, you also have to think about mercury content and all that stuff. So you don't necessarily want to be eating it every day, but this is an awesome product. And here at Market Basket, actually a pretty awesome price. So
Now there's different types of
there is. So
salmon.
yeah, we could even get into the different types of salmon. There's sockeye salmon,
sockeye.
king salmon, right?
Right.
So there is going to be a hierarchy there, you know, a spectrum, kind of like everything we're going through in the grocery store. There's a spectrum, and you just want to try to do the best kind for you that you can afford, right? So I know king salmon can be a lot more expensive than like a sockeye, you know. So I also like buying mine frozen, and if you can find any that is flash frozen at sea, that's going to be the best out there. So yeah, you know, you do what you can do and get the kind you can get. We're thinking fish.
Okay.
That's the ideal. You know, a lot of times when I'm working with vegans, I try to get them to understand, like, I am a huge fan of plant-based, a heavily plant-based diet. And if you are not getting in things like, one thing of fish, like at least a month, you're going to be missing some things, So I try to get them to either like be interested in some kind of, eggs or bone broth or something that's just going to be able to give them the vitamins and nutrients that they need. All right. So we're at the hummus section, and I'm a big fan of hummus because I find it gets people to eat more vegetables, right? If you have something to dip it in, it gives you a little extra flavor. The thing with hummus and any dips, you just have to be aware of the oils that you have in there. So ideally, we're gonna try to aim for olive oil. This one I know has sunflower oil in it as well. Those are gonna be better oils than, say, a soybean oil or a canola oil. So you're just gonna have a better makeup, and just making sure that you're not having an overshot of omega-6 fatty acids to omega-3. So coming back to that omega-3, omega-6 content. So omega-6 are going to cause a more inflammatory response if you have a high. So you want to kind of have an even mix of it. It's not necessarily bad. It's just we don't want to overly go that way with it.
Okay. What do you recommend that you dip the hummus?
Great question. So to dip the hummus, I would recommend any vegetable on the planet. Now, what do people mostly like to do? That's why it comes in a chip, right? It comes with chips. So I will say that it is a great food. So, if you're gonna eat chips, then it's a really great dip option, definitely.
Why do they call it hummus? It's chickpeas, right?
Yep.
They call it hummus.
So it's chickpeas mixed with tahini, which is ground up sesame seeds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So now we're at the egg section, and I love eggs. I love eggs. They are just such a nutrient-dense food, and the one thing that I want people to really understand about eggs is that you want to eat the whole egg. Okay?
Even the shell?
That's an awesome question. You don't necessarily want to be eating the shell, but you do want to get the whole egg. So what I mean by that is you'll find that they sell a lot of egg whites, for example, and most of the nutrient content is in the yolks. Okay, so getting the yolks in, and a lot of people are afraid of cholesterol from eggs. There's no science out there that's proving that that's a real thing. So you don't have to necessarily worry about that. Now, just like meat, you have different levels, like a spectrum of different kinds of eggs that you're gonna have, right? So you're gonna have eggs that are just prepackaged, and then you're gonna have, and the chickens are living really closely to each other. You're also gonna just have pasture raised or organic. You see all these words, free range, cage free. So cage free doesn't necessarily mean it's out in a range, it just means it's not in a cage. Okay, so free range, pasture raised, those are things, chickens that are gonna be living kind of like on the land. So you can ultimately pick whatever is in your price range. I love eggs because they really any kind, it's not super duper expensive.
Brown eggs or local eggs and local eggs. Fresh.
It's really interesting. I've had so many different colored eggs. Like that people always ask me, brown versus white versus. It's just the different kinds of chickens. So they, I've had blue eggs, I've had spotted eggs, I've had brown eggs. There's interesting. We have quail eggs here, right? So you have all different kinds. So and I'm a fan of duck eggs as well.
Now, do
So I like
those
that.
have like a higher?
It's
fat
pretty
content?
pretty similar makeup. And it's also, of course, just that where you're getting them from. So like the chickens that are allowed to go outside are going to have a higher vitamin D content coming from. And the yolks are just so awesome they have an ingredient called choline in it, and that's actually going to help to reduce fat in the liver. Sounds like a good plan, right? Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Very interesting.
So that's one of my favorite parts of eggs. They're just so awesome. All right, so now we're at the milk section. Okay, we have our dairy and we have our non-dairy forms of milk. Now, milk, unfortunately, it's not actually something that we necessarily need in our diet. It's a non-essential drink and or food if we're talking about cheese, right? And when it comes to dairy, the tricky part for a lot of people is we don't have what's called the lactase enzyme to break down lactose in dairy. And if you're gonna take it in, if you're a big dairy fan and you wanna drink it, I would go with the least processed form. So trying to get a full fat dairy product. Okay?
I'm all about that.
And and then of course you have your spectrum, just like in any other things that we're getting. You have organic, you have non-organic, you have the fat spectrum. Okay, so you have all of your different options, and if you can afford it, right, you can always go for an organic, pasture-raised. And then you even have what the animal is fed, like we talked about earlier, grass milk, right? So you have grass-fed, full fat. So, and then you also have different kinds of milk from different animals. So you could have a goat milk, and they found that some people break goat milk down a little bit better. So that's an option as well. So we've been talking healthy fats, and olive oil is a really great healthy fat that you can use on your salads, salad dressing. This with a little apple cider vinegar. Look at they're side by side. This is a great option. So you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, salt and pepper. It's a great choice compared to a lot of the dressings that you can get out there. It's tricky though. You do have to be very careful when you're choosing an olive oil because it is actually kind of a corrupt industry because they end up cutting a lot of it, and also you don't know how long it's been there, so it may be rancid. So you want to, number one, try to aim for an organic one if possible, and number two, if you can find one that has the press by date, like when it's been pressed, that's also going to be very helpful.
And is there a difference between how many times it's pressed, whether it's a first press or it's a second press?
Yeah, I actually don't know the answer. So first press versus second press. I mean, I just know that if you definitely want it to be a cold press, that's 100% because you don't want to heat it because then you're going to be denaturing it. And so we also, condiments is a big one people ask me about, and when we're thinking about condiments, we just have to be careful of just those particular oils, soybean oil and canola oil, and sugar tends to infiltrate condiments. That's the tricky part. So I find it very hard to find a ketchup that has low amount of sugar, but there is. I know Heinz makes one that is a no sugar added. Found it. Okay.
Nice.
So that is an option. And then you just got to be careful. There are barbecue sauces as well that have them, but you just have to keep your eyes open for the limited sugar.
Oh, cashew seed.
All right, so here we are at the nuts and seeds section, and this is a great way to get good healthy fats and protein as well. So I'm a huge fan of almonds. And just from a digestive standpoint, a lot of us are going to do better if we soak the almonds and then let them sprout a little bit. We're just going to be able to break down the nutrients and be able to digest it better, and get the goodness out of it. Now, the thing with nuts that people fear is the fat. It's not bad. Okay? So it's the good kind of fat, right? So we've been talking about the good kind of fat. So this is great. With that being said, you do have to think of it like when we were evolving as humans, and anybody that's ever gone to I always think of my grandparents. You go to grandparents' house, they always have the nutcracker, and you have to so
Absolutely.
exactly. So that's actually how we were supposed to be eating nuts, right? Because when you do it, it takes a long time to crack the nut. It's hard to do, so we're eating it one at a time, right? Now you have a whole bag, so it gets a little bit trickier. So now you literally just have to make sure that you're conscious of how many nuts you're eating, number one, and number two, just slow it down, right? So if you have a handful of nuts, great, awesome option, definitely a great snack option. Just don't, because that in nature, that's not how we would do it, right? Moderation, right? So when it comes to fruits, guys, I absolutely love berries. Out of all the fruits out there, berries tend to be my favorite, and it doesn't necessarily matter. So it's blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. All these berries are really awesome, high in antioxidants, and they're a lot lower glycemic. Okay, so you're not going to get a huge sugar burst from them. Okay, and they're great to, if you're making green smoothies at home, they're great to add those into it as well. Just from a, when we're thinking about nutrients and vitamin content, we're power loading it with berries. So, great choice. So that's about it, guys. I know that was a lot. There's a lot to go through with the whole grocery store, and there's of course the whole middle section that we could do. But I hope it helps you understand kind of how to shop and how it can ultimately help you go through the grocery store and make the best decisions possible. Is there any questions you had?
No, there's a lot of it. I mean, it was good. It was good to learn about all this stuff.
Love it.
I didn't know any of it. Most of it. You know?
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed the experience.
Good, very, very much. But let me just ask you. So, like, by eating this way, like, how much longer are you gonna live? You think?
That's a great question. I wish I could had a crystal ball telling us how much longer we could live, but I will say this. It's not necessarily how long you're going to live, it's just the quality of life is going to drastically improve when you incorporate a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients into your diet through eating this way. And if you notice, we went on the perimeter of the store mostly.